So you also mentioned that you are the owner of Hike and Heal Wellness. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Sure, yeah. So it's inspiring personal growth through nature and mindful play is the mission. Just to get people to have a deeper connection with the earth and understand like actually how it helps us besides, hey, we like to be out here, but why do we like to be out here? Because it reduces our cortisol levels, because it helps us become more creative, because it helps us kind of go through that movement meditation through hiking without even like trying. It opens up to our five senses. So there's so many reasons why nature is so important, but there's a lot of people who are just going through the motions who don't actually acknowledge that and realize that
It's
it's
happening
actually
like, externally.
It's an alternative form of wellness
Yes.
if you seek it out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like, how often are people saying yes?
It's about being
Instead
intentional.
of just like walking my dog every day for 20 minutes. Hey, what if I go to a place that's actually wooded? How does that change my experience? And so that's really my mission, is just to get people more conscious about their relationship with the natural world. But through that, using leadership and team building, character education, and really focusing on that piece and how that creative, mindful play actually can enhance even more my time outside. So getting a group of people to experience something wonderful through a retreat or a workshop. I run a summer camp that started this past summer, and it was called Camp Begin, which stands for Creative Arts, Mindfulness, and Play. And then Begin stands for Breathing, Exploring, and Growing in Nature. And so I was able to take 4 to 14-year-olds all together at the same time, which sounds crazy. But it was kind of cool to see how motivated the younger kids were, obviously, to be with the older kids. But the surprising part was how much the older kids loved to coach and guide and mentor those younger kids, and it really helped with behavior. And I ended up realizing that I opened up a camp for this demographic of people that are not getting helped with mental illness. So, kids who struggle with ADHD, or kids who struggle with high anxiety, or, attachment syndromes, or just so many other different things. And so that was kind of neat. I was not expecting that was going to happen.
Very cool.
So that's a big part of the business, and the only reason I actually opened Hike and Heal Wellness is because I knew I was doing that camp, and that was a market that, at this point in Madison, was not being addressed.
Underserved.
Underserved market.
Absolutely, yeah. I grew up with ADHD, and I remember that being really confusing at the time, and also it was confusing to have like a parent be confused, and that So it's so important to be having people outside, people support with mental illness like that, because I think people tend not to look at things like ADHD
Right.
as mental illness, and they don't realize you can treat it through.
You can
A
live
lot
with
of you can
it
100%.
and have a fantastic life.
100%. Yeah,
It just might look different than somebody who doesn't have ADHD. It just looks different. You're more sensory. You need more sensory stimulation. So outside is like
perfect.
a perfect playground.
Awesome. So, what does a day-to-day look like in that setting for you?
Yeah. So like when I'm not leading a retreat or I'm not leading a camp, it's marketing. Boring stuff on the website. I don't know, but I like it. I'm kind of a nerd that way. So
And where did you learn those skills?
At Door County Adventure Center. So very small company. I led camps. I facilitated their school programs. We sold about $40,000 a year in school programs. So if you can imagine, about 300 programs-ish, just specifically for schools,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you understand with Manage-Wish, probably
Yeah.
similar. And then on top of all those facilitations and managing the zipline operation in the summer, my big piece was in the winter, right? Not as many clients, so now it's time to do marketing and sales. And so I just kind of taught myself, and I liked it. Yeah, I really liked it. I actually was going to major in computer science, and then decided I'd rather play more instead of sit in front of a screen, but now I'm kind of doing both.
Yeah, experiential ed.
Yep, there we go.
All right. Sorry.
You're fine.
So how did your formal education and the jobs that you have had in the industry prior inform both your decision to start this business? And how are you seeing your prior knowledge applied there? Also, what kind of extra like certifications did you pick up along the way that have informed your work with hike and heel wellness?
I feel like every single thing that I've done up until this point has helped me, I don't know, be ready for this. Like every single thing in my degree has been perfect for what I do. So I thought all the classes at Eau Claire were really applicable for Phi Ed. And there was a time there where I was like, I'm never going to go into the schools and teach Phi Ed for many of the reasons we have talked about. But it's actually a fantastic balance because benefits are awesome. But also it's really nice to have a day-to-day connection with kids and families. And so the connection piece to the community has been the reason why I felt so confident opening this business last January. Other certifications I have. So I got certified in June of 2016 for my yoga. So now I'm a registered 200-hour yoga teacher. And then I have trainings with Rainbow Kids for kids yoga, and that's something kind of I'm delving into. And then I am a level 2 kayak instructor through the ACA and level 2 ropes course facilitator through the ACCT. So those are extra things that I did, and I think they're awesome, and I'm really happy that I went through with my kayaking certification. The hardest part about certifications, right, is like keeping them.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. Totally. I feel like I had like 3 other ones, but I let them lapse.
Yeah.
So that's really hard, especially when you get into this industry, because I feel like, oh, I have to get this one, I have to get this one, I have to get this one.
Gotta catch them all. There is a feeling, a sense of urgency.
And it's like, it's overwhelming, it's expensive. I mean, I've been trying to get my wilderness first responder for the last like 5 years, and I still don't have it, and I'm like kicking myself, but it's so expensive.
And you have to travel often to city to get it,
And I would just say to other people who are looking into this field that it's not something to be intimidated by, and everything will come when it needs to come.
Totally.
I feel like at first I thought I needed to get all these things, but it's really not the case. People are going to take you regardless, and as we saw, like even through MSCR, you don't need your certification to do it. You need experience, and I think the more experience you have is really the most powerful thing that you can give yourself.
Totally. So let's talk about that. So yeah, for like entry-level stuff in the industry, you don't really have to have a lot of certs. It certainly helps. I like to, or we have talked about it in a way that is a good way to just show something personal about yourself on like a job application.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you don't necessarily need them. So what are some other opportunities you have seen, kind of just entry-level stuff, or maybe some jobs that you had mentioned that the Door County Adventure Program was a place that you worked, an organization?
Yep.
What did you do there? And also, what were some other opportunities you saw either like through that or connected to the Door County Adventure Program?
Yeah, well, in Wisconsin in general, I feel like there's a lot of recreational adventure education opportunities, right? Like ziplining is very popular, kayaking is very popular. There's so much water around Wisconsin and Michigan, so a lot of kayaking jobs if you're interested in that. At Door County specifically, when I was hired, I was supposed to be like in charge of their day camp for people with special needs, which was really fun, and then help facilitate ropes course programs. And then every year after that, I just continued to add on more responsibility to my job. So I ended up being like the director of their camps, which meant I wrote the curriculum, I had to sell the camps, I had to teach at the camps, which is the best part. And I come up with new ideas for what sells and what doesn't sell. And then I had to do school programming, same thing, selling it, marketing it, doing it, loving it. And then in the summer I was a zipline guide, and then I had to run their zipline operation. So like when I first got there, all I had was a gravity zipline, which is funny. So you get up to the top, right? You know that, and you go all the way, and then you go back down to the middle, and you have to get taken down on a ladder at the belly of the cable. So when you see that compared to like actual big zipline operations where you go from tree to tree, or in this case from pole to pole, still on an adventure course, it's very, very different and not as user friendly to the public. So I kind of started there, and then I was like, Tim, the owner, we should probably think about getting like an actual zipline course. And so we expanded to that, and then neither him or I were in the industry before that, like doing zipline tours, so we just created it together and figured out how to market it and sell it and how to get people to book online and all that fun stuff. So that was really actually a huge expansion for them. So that was a really big deal.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, a few things that you just talked about. So, in my experience, I think people would you agree that you get quite a bit of autonomy in a lot of these jobs.
Yes.
You get a lot of cool control, and I think another thing that you touched on is you were at the Door County Adventure Program for, did you say 7 years?
Mm-hmm. It's a long time.
Yeah, would you say, I think that we see that organizations are pretty loyal to people who work hard.
Right.
And really value that hard work, and really value people sticking around and having real effects on the curriculum and like the structures themselves.
Right.
Yeah, so what about that? I think is one of the good parts of the industry, that autonomy and that ability to insert parts of yourself on kind of a wide scale, or just have some control over programming.
I think the reason I liked that job so much is because I had so much ownership over it,
Okay.
right? Like, I had huge contributions to like how successful they were.
Could you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, so like they had this company creating their website and doing their website for them, and they would spend money on it every year, or they had some trade, and the trade funds like continued to increase, and like, I could build you a website. And so getting them to go off of this like super old platform to a brand new platform that's more dynamic, and getting people to actually book online instead of having to call in, like, that's a big deal, right? So I guess like marketing was a really big contribution that I had, and I have no experience in marketing. I just feel like
You picked up the skill.
Yeah, I feel like if you are a person who understands what people want, you can sell to them. And so if you know how to sell to them, you know how to market to them. You just have to figure out
what they want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's touch briefly on internships. Did you at any point do any interning anywhere? Or?
Before I went to Door County, I worked at, what's it called? I don't just remember, sports camp in Minnesota, in Blaine, Minnesota, at that big soccer complex. And I guess that was one of my internships. I mean, for FIAD, that was definitely an internship. And then the Door County place, those were the two main things. I was just super lucky to like walk into a job that had everything laid out in front of me. Like, I would not be here without any of those jobs. So yeah, just when you figure out what you want to do, you just gotta find something that speaks to your soul and go for it and commit to it.
Did you at any point have like a mentor figure, or somebody who was like lit that fire for you? Because you speak passionately about facilitation, getting really, really into it. Was there a certain person, like a moment that you were like, whoa, this is kind of it?
Yeah, so the owner of Door County's Adventure Center, his name is Tim Fleeger, and he had background in counseling, and so he really had a perspective of great facilitation, and so he was definitely my mentor in everything, and I'll be forever grateful for everything that he's ever done. And it's just, yeah, I loved facilitating with him. I think coming to Madison, it was interesting facilitating with other people, because him and I had a really nice like balance back and forth. And I think when you find someone that you can facilitate with, totally, where you're balancing, right? Yeah. Like the hard and soft, the humor, you're having a good time, people really pick up on that, and they're like, wow, this is pretty exciting. Like, that was a really helpful experience for me, whether it's a corporate group or a nonprofit or a school. And that's kind of what we kept experiencing. So that was definitely Tim, for sure. I don't feel like there were other mentors just because I was there for such a long time.